according to police in Munich, the rally in Munich had 250,000 people show up. 250,000 people. If you just look at the crowds, it's unbelievable. Earlier in Australia, we saw the crowd sizes. That was so impressive. Like, I'm so proud of the Iranian people right now. And,
Also in
Toronto is
Canada,
going to,
don't forget, yeah, don't
yeah,
forget
yeah.
Canada.
Hold on, Daniel. Wait, let me make my point, and then after you could hold on. Let me actually advertise to the people who are watching it that they could come and speak as well. But yeah, Canada. That's what I was going to say. Toronto is coming up right now. That's why Goldie is not live. East Coast is going to happen right now. West Coast is going to be starting pretty soon. But Daniel, you're right. Canada is important as well. The US is coming. East Coast US and then West Coast US. Guys, by the way, people in the chat, if you want to come up and speak, I put the link in the chat. You could come and join this conversation. So we'll get to the Munich conference with them because Lindsey Graham participated as well. He came and spoke before Princess of Pahlavi. He picked up the Iran flag and he started giving his amazing speech in support of the Iranian people. We need to talk about that. More importantly than Lindsey Graham, Trump. We also remember Trump yesterday mentioned that he's looking for regime, like he thinks regime change is a good idea, and that they have people in mind. There are people who could take over after the Islamic Republic falls. So many things are happening at the same time. The Munich conference inviting princes of Pahlavi instead of their representatives of the Islamic Republic is a huge signal that the world is ready for the fall of the Islamic Republic, not just Israel and United States, but also European countries. Daniel was asking regarding the questions that Christian Amanpour asked of Princess of Pahlavi. He was frustrated with the questions that were being asked because they were very leftists and very anti-Israel. And yeah, I mean, all of us who were watching that, we were frustrated with her questions. But I mentioned before we go live, I mentioned to Daniel before we went live that I actually appreciate Princess of Pahlavi being able to answer those questions masterfully. If you guys haven't seen it, go just search on YouTube interview Christian Amanpour, Princess of Pahlavi. Just watch that because if you want to know how to answer these questions, these dumb questions that they were regarding Iran and his leadership and Israel, he did such a perfect job. In fact, watch our show yesterday with Goldie because I was reviewing it. I reviewed half of it already. I think next time Goldie, I have a live stream with Goldie. I'm going to review the next half. But today, the rallies for the Iranians are showing up in the rallies to support Iran, to support Princess of Pahlavi against the Islamic Republic. The numbers are huge. Like we saw so many rallies up until this point after the massacre of the Iranian people by the Islamic Republic. We saw so many protests happening, but this one, the Iranian people, these ones are a direct response to Princess of Pahlavi's call to action for everybody to come out, Iranians and supporters of Iran, not just Iranians, to come out on February 14th. By the way, guys, if you are in Canada, United States, make sure you participate in these rallies because I think the ones that in the rest of the world are basically over now. But now the United States and Canada, they're the ones remaining now. So make sure you participate if you can. I know Nail Bunny just finished her participation in the protest. She's going to be might be joining us, and she said she was chanting so much she has lost her voice, but she might come here and explain to us what happened. So we're looking forward to that. But yeah, the numbers were huge, and it basically shook the whole world, and it's sending a direct, a clear message to the rest of the world that the Iranian peoples, both inside and outside of Iran, are ready for regime change. Princess of Pahlavi's speech at the crowd that happened just about, I think, 4 hours ago, right? Well, 4 or 5 hours ago. That was epic as well. I think we are going to review that on the live stream tomorrow. That was a really epic speech. Lindsey Graham had a really epic speech. He promised that help is on the way. He said that, like he said, he repeated that help is on the way and the mullahs are going to be falling, and his support for the Iranian people was so strong. And I really enjoyed watching Princess of Pahlavi's speech was the best, but after that, I think Lindsey Graham's speech was really, really fun to watch. It was really full of hope and it motivated us. So I really enjoyed watching, and I also really appreciated when he went and picked up the Iranian flag behind him and waved it. That was very beautiful to watch. I really enjoyed that. Samantha, I saw you raise your hand. Oh no, no. So wait, Danny is here. Danny has a list. So current list is
I
Danny,
joined late, so I
Samantha,
don't
and
know
then
if I
Amy.
missed someone.
Okay. Yeah, go on.
Mine is really short. I just wanted to say that you didn't address the thing that I privately messaged you about on school. So please get to
Oh,
that.
well, yeah, Danny, because you're can I give you my Telegram or WhatsApp so that you could contact me directly?
Sure.
Let me do Yeah, because I'm so behind on my school messages. Let me just give you I will do that, okay? I will do that right now.
Okay.
But yeah, but let's go to Samantha.
Yeah, so let's forget like internal domestic policies, just in terms of like international behavior. I don't know that I think America like I don't know that America is more moral than the CCP in terms of international behavior.
Oh, okay.
It, thoughts.
So do you agree on internal policies? You agree that America is way better
More
than the
like
CCP?
I just want to sidestep internal for now, and because
Yeah,
like
can I quick answer? Because this week the CCP threatened to nuke Japan,
did
and
they
they
really?
did mushroom cloud in the middle of the desert just to threaten Japan. So, yeah, I think the CCP is slightly worse when it comes to posturing.
Okay, what was that
This
like?
is
Really?
like this week. That's the latest.
Okay, yeah, what was that about? Because I didn't hear about that. I
It
didn't even
was
know that they were
about
like
the response of the election that Japan had. The candidate that won was the one that the CCP didn't want to win. So yeah, they threatened them with nuclear warfare. But these are like I don't want to underestimate ever, but it looks like just moral posturing. None, it's not like a real. It's just yeah,
Right. So
common.
so for f- so let me for people who might be wondering why we're talking about this. I mean, by the way, Francisco, I haven't seen this right now. Okay, so the, and this relates to Iran, guys. So the reason why we're talking about this is because yesterday we were talking about the Islamic Republic falling is and the Iranian people being able to choose their own destiny and choose their representative and they want. And if the Iranian people are in charge, this is going to be a major win for Iranian people, Israel, the United States, and the new global order that we're entering into, because we were talking about how the new Cold War that is starting is basically a battle between American values and CCP values. I feel like we were saying how the Islamic Republic falling, it provides a lot of new Iranians with 90 million Iranians will become free to join the side of the US in this battle against evil. We consider the people to be on the wrong side of this global battle, to be the CCP, Putin, North Korea's government, and the Islamic Republic. The Islamic Republic is on the wrong side of this history, and the Iranian people, on the other hand, are on the right side. They're basically on the side of the values that we support here in this community that we have here, all of the classical liberal values that we support. So freeing them from the chains of the Islamic Republic is going to release them to come and before this Cold War starts to be on America's side and Israel's side, and it's going to be a major win for this global battle that we're going to be in. So Samantha is asking, is CCP is CCP really that bad? And she wants to focus on foreign
well,
policy.
I think
Yeah,
no, I'm more coming from the perspective of I think they're horrible, but like I think everyone's horrible. So I think America's
yeah,
also
not
horrible.
okay. So, but we when we use the word horrible, the word horrible has to mean something, right? To me, if we want to talk about good and bad, the best way to use these words is by well-being, right? I think like if do you agree that well-being is a good metric for good and bad? Like if well-being goes up, that's good. Well-being going down, that's bad.
Yeah.
Okay, so if I could show empirically that the values that America has been founded on and the values that America stands for increases well-being has actually been responsible for the highest amount of well-being in the history of civilization in the past 12,000 years. In the past 12,000 years, would you say that that's horrible? Would you say that's horrible
No.
if I show you that? Okay.
Like, in terms of how they act internationally, so forget the well-being of Chinese people and American people, like, just everyone else.
The well-being of the whole world, like the whole world has benefited from United States, okay, from their science, from their technology, from their politics, from their culture, from everything, for everything that they stand for. The world has benefited from America, like from their medicine. America exists, and for the step for from the stability that the American military provides to the whole world, for the amount of trade that is now possible all around the world because America's military is present all around the world. Everybody, in fact, I would say that maybe the rest of the world benefits more because Americans are paying for it. The rest of the world is benefiting from it without paying for it. So the rest of the world is actually it's kind of unfair to the American taxpayers, to be honest. Okay, because they're not even paying for it and they're still benefiting from it, right?
I
America
mean,
is
there
a
was
country that will
international
never.
trade pre-World War I era. There was still, like, a lot of international trade pre-World War I era.
Yeah, but not to this extent. Okay, there's obviously there was always international trade since we ever had trade, right? But not to this level, not to the security that America provides. It makes international trade so much less risky, that it makes it so much more profitable. Also, America is a country that is always first to arrive whenever there's a disaster, whenever there's a disease. America is first to arrive, the last to leave. We have the computer, we have the internet, because we have all the tech that we have is because of America's involvement. All the medicine that we have, 90% of their contribution comes from America. The science, the technology, everything, right? Without the Americans' involvement, we would have none of this. We would have been like decades behind in any of this, right? But if you want to compare America to the CCP, okay, so we have America involved in other countries and the CCP involved in other countries, okay? So America, obviously, it's not perfect, obviously, like there's criticism to everywhere. But right now, as we speak, everywhere America is involved, okay, it's either with the permission of the people of that country, or the people of that, or the country is basically has a tyrannical government that. So actually, yeah, that you can that basically you have tyranny in that country. So figuring out exactly I mean, even then I would think that yeah, everywhere that America is involved right now is basically with permission, right? But that's not the same thing with the CCP. The CP, for example, is invading Vietnam's border integrity, Philippines' border integrity, Japan's border integrity, and basically meddling in their country. Almost every country in the Pacific, except maybe North
Really?
Korea doesn't mind, but the rest of them do. These are free
Wait,
democratic countries that are being abused by the CCP without their permission.
could you
So,
send me
but
links to,
US
like,
is,
what China's doing or the CCP is doing to them? Because, like, I don't know, like,
for
that.
example, in the Philippines, they are basically taking over their islands, and the Philippines is trying to fight back, and they even had clashes with their soldiers, right? So CCP is trying to take over Philippine. No, the CCP is trying to the Chinese CCP is trying to take over Philippine territory, and Philippines considers them to be a bully, and they want America to come help them to be able to fight back against the CCP. Same thing in Vietnam. Same thing in many of the other countries in the Japan, South Korea, all of them. All of them are being bullied by the CCP, and they all of them want America to come help them. This is why people in Vietnam are big, big, big fans of America right now. A country that used to go to war, like was the main enemy of the United States. The people in Vietnam are huge fans of United States, and they want United States to help them against the CCP. Same thing in the Philippines. So this is how I know that United States behaves a lot better internationally than China by a huge by a major like margin, by a huge margin, like astronomically better. Everywhere we are complaining about US meddling, we're talking about tyrants, we're talking about dictators, we're talking about Maduro, we're talking about ayatollahs, right? But when every place that the CCP is meddling without permission, we're talking about democracies. Okay, we're talking about democracies where people are not being ruled by tyrants. That we're talking about Japan, we're talking about Vietnam, we're talking about Philippines, we're talking about South Korea. And yet the one country in the Pacific that is like, yeah, I'm okay with China. Yeah, it's North Korea. Like I'm okay with Chinese meddling. Yeah, because they're also tyrants, just like the CCP. All right. Go look, Samantha. Go look into the Philippines problem with the CCP and Vietnam's problem with the CCP. Just go look into that, and then find me a similar, find me a single similar thing that the United States is doing to a country without their permission. Anything even resembling that. That is not a tyranny. Like to a democracy, for example, to a democratic country.
Armin, can I add to it something?
Okay, yeah, short, very short, because we have a
Yes,
big list. We want to go
no
through
problem.
it.
Like America accuses China in sending fentanyl to the US, right?
Yeah. Say that again.
To be honest, I don't give
Sorry.
a shit if China wants to send fentanyl to the US.
Wait,
China is
what?
accused.
You don't care about China sending fentanyl to the US?
I do not care about China sending fentanyl to the US.
Okay,
Why?
never mind. But hold on. Can I
I don't know.
finish
Why
it?
should I care?
Like,
Because it
hold on.
kills people. It's like a weapons of mass destruction. It kills more people than war.
I mean, like,
Those are drugs,
I don't
like
know.
cocaine, like
Hold on, let me see.
drugs.
Yeah, go.
So
It
I
kills
mean,
people.
like,
You care about well-being. It ruins lives.
I do care about well-being, but like, I mean, I don't want people dying, but I feel like, you know, how do I say this? Like, people have the right to choose for themselves things.
never mind. But hold
I
on
mean,
a
like,
second. China
All right,
is accused to send fentanyl, but US never was accused on sending some sort of drugs all over the world, right? So that's a
Right.
point for the US.
Okay,
That
got
was
it,
my
Daniel.
point.
All right, let's move on, because I want to cover other topics as well. Amy was on the list, right? Danny, Amy is next.
Yep.
Yes,
Can
Amy.
you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you. Go on, Amy.
All right. Okay. I'm a little triggered right now because, obviously I'm American and fentanyl is a huge problem in our country, and all of the Americans here will know what I'm talking about. It's taken so many lives and ruined families. But anyway, my point is I want to go back to the Western Hemisphere and to the Munich Security Conference or whatever. I am back to what Amanpour, the question she was asking Pahlavi, and I felt like her questions were so like softball kind of and open ended, and I felt like he painted a picture and answered it in a way that painted a picture for people to understand more easily what is happening in Iran and what he sees for the future and for the people making decisions for themselves and their government and starting their, drafting a constitution and all of that. I was super impressed with his comments and how he presented everything and how he handled that entire interview. Also, I would just like to throw out thumbs up for Rubio because I really liked what he said as well. I was pretty impressed, and I'm just gonna, leave it there. But yeah, that
Can you
was
say?
all I had to say. Go ahead.
Can you explain what Rubio said? By the way, I love Rubio, but what did he say that impressed you?
It was. Have you seen it, Armin? Have you seen it?
No, that's why I'm asking. Like, I'm now very
Okay.
curious.
You're gonna have to watch it. I'll give you like a little snippet of. He kind of explained everything in a nutshell in an easy way, just like Pahlavi did with Amanpour.
Mhm.
Um, Rubio
Just
did
today?
with yes, yeah.
Okay.
and explained like what the US has been doing here, there, and everywhere. Sorry, my dog is,
That's
here, there,
fine.
and everywhere, and why we've been doing it, and the struggles that we've been facing. And he tied it all back together with Europe and our close ties to Europe historically, and how,
Mhm.
we've always felt very tied to that part of the world because that's where we come from. That's where we started. That's our roots are there, and we want to still be there for them. So, I mean, that it was just, I felt pretty American Pie today. So that was good.
Aw, that's very sweet. Okay, I'm gonna have to watch that. I'm probably gonna review that tomorrow. With regards to Princess of Pahlavi, so guys, again, if you're new here, Amy is talking about the interview that Princess of Pahlavi had with Christian Amanpour, and the questions that, again, that's why the question that Christian Amanpour asked in the show were really frustrating to listen to. But I'm actually happy that she asked them, because I didn't want there to be soft walls for Princess of Pahlavi. I wanted those questions to be asked so the whole world could see that Princess of Pahlavi has the answers. Because if there was somebody that was just pro Pahlavi and came out and asked questions that seemed to be completely in agreement, then we wouldn't have the opportunity to see that Princess of Pahlavi is being challenged, and we wouldn't have been able to be demonstrate that Prince of Pahlavi is good at answering them. I'm actually very impressed that, like, I'm really happy that Amy also found them to be helpful, because there's this thing called the curse of knowledge. So because I follow Iranian politics, of course, listening to Princess of Pahlavi, I could see what he's saying, I understand what he's pointing to, and it makes sense to me. And every single one of his answers, I found them to be very correct, from obviously in my opinion, from somebody who follows Iranian politics. But then when you have too much, when you follow something too much, then if you explain it to somebody that hasn't been following that as much as you have, you miss a lot of details, and you explain it in a way sometimes that they're not going to really be able to paint a picture regarding what's happening. But yeah, just a second. But now that Amy is saying that that was very enlightening to her and made her able to understand things, to me it suggests that Princess of Pahlavi's explanation were really good for somebody like an American like Amy as well, which is really good to hear.
Yeah, I just wanted to say yes, that's the point that I was trying to make, that the way that he explained things and took the the questions were just, they weren't very in depth, but he expanded on that and explained how the people of Iran are going to be the ones who determine the future of Iran. And I think he made that crystal clear. And I think that he, I, coming from me, and I'm not Iranian, I don't think that he's a guy that's going to go in there and try and take over and run the show. I think he's going to go in and he knows his people are smart. He knows his people are the cradle of civilization. He's proud of his people. He knows that they've got the wherewithal to do it. And after 47 years, they deserve it, more than anything. So that's all.
Yes. Okay, and Amy, if you could think of, before we go to the next person, if you could think of what questions you would be asking, I would be interested to see if we could, as a group, answer them here. Like, if you want to raise your hand again, and then like think about, like, if you were sitting there and interviewing Princess of Pahlavi, what would you want to know? That would be very interesting to go over. By the way, if people are, I see some people are new here, guys. If you want to speak, there's a reactions button at the bottom of your screen. If you click it, then there's a hand raise option. And then when you click that, then Danny, our mod here, would be adding you to a list. And then we would get to speak.
Oh,
Thank you, Danny, for. Yep, go on.
can I just say, Amy, I'm sorry for your family's loss.
Oh, no problems, Samantha. I mean, it's not just my family, it's so many families in the United States that are affected. And it's touched every single person's life in this country. There's not one person in this country whose life it hasn't affected. So it's a
I'm not.
big deal.
Yeah, Amy, I'm not even in America. My cousin lived in America. He died from overdose as well. So
Yeah.
even my cousin died from overdose as well, and I'm not
Yeah.
even in America. Like it affects so many people that it even affected my family.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. Thank
Yeah.
you.
Norman, I'm also
Yeah,
sorry
thank
for
you.
your loss.
Yeah, thank you. And yeah, you too. Sorry for your loss as well, Amy. All right. So Danny, who's next?
Next is Francesco.
Yeah, I wanted. Yeah, I wanted to talk about the moral equivalence between the CCP and and America. I mean, that's not comparable. So for me, this is the frame and the way I see it, because the way I see it, America is like an empire because it controls the trade, and most of the trade is at sea. America controls 11 aircraft carriers, and it is a way better empire that communist countries will ever be. Because the way it does colonialism is mutually beneficial, is through trade. So it uplifts both and also it spends money to have colonies. Whereas if the communist bloc or Islam as colonies, they basically put a dictator in place and extract all the resources. And they don't help each other. So that's why the United States as allies, like those dictatorship, they coordinate on paper, but rarely intervene to save each other. I mean, and when it comes to colonialism and empire, I don't think countries have many choices. So in the past was either you fall under the British Empire or the French. Now the way I see it is there are three options. One is the Islamic bloc. And by the way, not all Muslim majority country fall into this bloc. For example, Azerbaijan, Indonesia, I think they fall more into the Western bloc. Then you have the United States bloc, which is Europe, Japan, South Korea, all the countries that basically the United States freed, or either during the Second World War or the Cold War. And then you have the communist bloc, the Eastern bloc, China, Russia, and all their proxy. So yeah, I don't think you have a choice to be neutral. You either fall under one of those three kind of sphere of influences, and if you fall under the American sphere of influence, you have prosperity. If you fall under the communist sphere of influence, then to basically save and change that, then you need to change the top. So you need to just change the elite and the dictator, and then people get freed. And if you fall under the Islamic sphere of influence, then it's way harder because once it gets entrenched, you need to change the people. That's at the base. It's not just the dictator, but it's also very hard to build anything on top of that system. So I don't know if other people share my view. I want to hear other opinions on the topic.
So I'll just quickly go over the way I view it. I think that when we're talking about imperialism or colonialism, I think there is no empires right now. The era of empires is over, and there's only three groups of people who are trying to, maybe two, yeah, are trying to bring it back. And influence doesn't make you an empire, right?
Yeah, but
Influence
what
just
do
makes.
you define empire?
Okay, yeah, I'm going. That's what I was going to say. Talk about. That's exactly what I was about to say before you interrupted me. But let me just. What was I going to say? Oh yeah. So empire is basically the opposite of having a nation state. That's why we created the concept of a nation state as an anti-imperial project. And America, it actually started with America. It actually started with the foundation of America. That's why I consider America to be an anti-imperialist project. This is why I consider it funny when people like consider America to be an empire. America is the least imperialist thing ever. It's basically the the thing that the most effective way to end empires was America, right? And I'll explain why. So empire is when you have a group of people who have some citizens who are the governance or the ruling body represents those citizens, but then those citizens are few. They're basically in the capital or close to it, and all the other land that this empire controls is being controlled without the vote or the will of the people in those lands being taken into consideration. And the governing body is not a reflection of any of those groups of people. It's only a reflection of the citizens in the capital or close to the capital. So the empire is when you're ruling over land with people that you do not represent, that you're not a reflection of them, and they have no say in how you govern them. That's an empire, right? A nation state, okay, so, and a nation state, on the other hand, is when you have a nation, which is a group of people within a geographical area that have some characteristics that bonds them together. So that's a nation. And the state is a governing body for that nation that is a reflection of that nation and represents that nation and rules for that nation, right? So, and it serves that nation. That's what a nation state is. So, the idea of a nation state and an empire are basically completely the opposite of each other. And the idea of a nation state started in the French Revolution, but it was actually put in place by the American Revolution. Like, it was first put into practice by the American Revolution, right? And the American Revolution actually put those ideas in place effectively in America for the first time. And then it ended up being a really effective, a really good project. And America, as a project of these ideas, ended up growing and growing and growing. And then after World War II, the American model dominated the West. And after the Cold War, it dominated the entire planet. So this whole idea of a nation state model that America tested, it worked so well that now is basically the governing model everywhere that we have land, except maybe the South Pole. Okay, but almost everywhere that we have land, we're now using the American model to govern the idea of a nation state. So basically, everywhere that we was going from the imperial model to the nation state model was following the America's model of governing to create nation states. Like, we talk about America and other nation states without remembering that all nation states are nation states because America became a nation state. That, like, the idea of a nation state started with America. The idea of nationalism, like, started with America. Like, all of this has started with America, right? And then it works. So the fall of empires all around the world happened because America proved that this is a model that works. And then now we forgot how empires used to operate, which is they come, they invade, they rule over you, and then there's nothing you could do about it. Honestly, it was good for its time. I'm not trashing the idea of an empire. I mean, if you weren't part of an empire, you were barbarians. It would be better for you to be part of an empire than be barbarians. So it was a model that worked for its time, but obviously, now the nation state model works a lot better. What we have right now is not empire. What we have right now is some nation states become so rich, become so influential that everybody is affected by them and everybody wants to trade with them. Everybody wants to. So America is very influential, not just because of its technology, not because of its science, not just because of its economy, not because of its superior culture that the whole world is affected by it, but also because of its consumers, its purchasing power of its citizens. Everybody wants to sell to them. They have money, they have buy. People want to produce to sell to Americans. The fact that America has so many customers that want to buy other people's products, that is not imperialism, because people are lining up to sell to them. They're not forcing anything on you. People are going to them. Okay, people, these are Americans with a lot of money. They want to buy. Other people are producing. They want to sell it to Americans. They're asking America for access to their market. This is not imperialism. This is you just being so good at building your economy that everybody is lining up for the purchasing power of your citizens. So when people are voluntarily asking for access to your market, for access to the security that comes from your military, Imperialism is that we come to you, we force you, and there's nothing you could do about it. It's not. This is the other way around. This is people ask, like, for example, Philippines and Vietnam go to America, say, like, can you bring your military here so that China doesn't bully us? That is not imperialism. That's just a mutual agreement. That's a win-win agreement between two independent nation states. That's how I see it.
Yeah, we have just to recap a bit the two different. For you, an empire is when few in a central place control all the periphery and it's authoritarian. And the nation state is basically a democratic.
No, no, there's the most important element is that they rule over it without
Consent.
without representing them, without representing them. That's the most important part. Like, their vote doesn't count. Like, they have no say. These people they are being ruled by people who are governing in a way that you have no say in.
Yeah.
Right? So, for example, the Roman Empire, the citizens of Rome have a say in how Rome as an empire governs. Okay. But the citizens of Jerusalem, for example, the people in Jerusalem who are being ruled by Rome, the Roman Empire, they have no say. This Roman citizens have a say. So, the people in Jerusalem are being ruled by Rome, but they have no say in how Rome operates, how it does its politics. That's empire.
Yeah, for me, the two definitions, like, one is control over the road, the trade route. The other one is control over the land. So a nation controls the land, the empire controls the trade. And when it is willing and unwilling, it's a bit of a both thing. So you have debts to pay in dollars, and there is the petrodollar that was a policy, and there were a lot of coup d'etat of basically communist regimes that appeared in the Latin America. I'm not against any of those things, but it was both willing and unwilling, so done by force, and yeah. So it's both.
So just for last point, the only message I want to mention is that having control doesn't mean that you're an empire, because control so having control could mean because you did your job so well that now you have more economic power, more military power. That means that you have more control. That is not empire if you are not going to use the power that you have and the control that you have to do anything against the will of the people who you don't represent. Okay. And the only forms of empires that we have today is the two attempts at empire by these two, by Putin and by Islamist. Okay, so we have the nation state model dominant all around the world, and there are two groups of people who are trying to bring empire back. Not even the CCP is trying to bring empire back. Even though I'm against them, I want the United States to win against the CCP. But I think the only two people who want to bring back empire is one, Putin, and more dangerously Islam. The reason why more dangerous is Islam is because Putin wants to have empire only around his area, like over Eastern Europe and the former Soviet states. But Islam wants to have an empire that basically takes over the entire planet. That's why that's the most dangerous idea out there. All right. So who's next?
Next, we have Shauna.
Okay. Can you guys hear me? Okay. Yeah, I think you can. Okay. Two very, very quick things. I was watching Glenn Beck this morning, and he talked about Russia came out to Trump and said, "We didn't leave the dollar left you." And he went over the history of the Cuba crisis, and the trade-off for the Cuba crisis and the Cuban Missile Crisis was basically hands off of Turkey. And so he speculated that perhaps this was Russia trying to say something along the lines of, maybe hands off of Ukraine, let us take Ukraine, and then we'll play ball. So that was his speculation. I'd be curious your thoughts about that. Then the other quick question, or I don't know, statement, question, both, is Fuentes is Democrat posting. And what that means is he's basically telling people to either not vote or to vote for Democrats because it's better because reasons. And he's not even like hiding it anymore. What I'm curious about is, do you think in the future, possibly, you could see an alliance forming between the white nationalists and the Islamists inside the Democratic Party, which seems crazy right now, but it would just take it wouldn't take that much for those alliances. And the Democrat Party in the United States is the oldest party. It's changed its shape multiple times. So I'd be curious what you think of that, if that's a possibility for that to form in a real coherent way, an Arab or like a Muslim jihadi communist, the Islamo commies forming with the Wignats.
Yeah,
Yeah. Yeah, if that could
yeah,
happen
that
within the Democratic Party, whereas the Christian right and I mean the Christian right and the act like the actual Christian right and the Jews and other religious minorities would form within the Republican. I'd be curious what happens.
no, no, that's great. I mean, when it comes to Ukraine, some people, again, I don't, let me know what you think about it. Some people's understanding is that has already been, it's already the direction that we're going. Like United States is going to, there are a lot of analysts in the United States who think that Russia is one way or another going to have Ukraine and even more countries in Eastern Europe at some point. Like their calculation, for some reason that I don't know, is that this is inevitable. It's going to happen. We can slow it down, and maybe we should, because we have to make Russia's job more difficult. But at some point, it will happen, and United States could help the European countries by selling weapons to European countries so that they could give it to Ukraine. But it's not like at some point United States has to be like, well, this is a lost cause. This is not my neighborhood, and we're gonna have an agreement with Putin, with Russia, that I'll basically allow this to happen. I mean, I will still keep selling weapons to Europe, but I'm not going to participate in myself directly in defending Ukraine. And I get out of your neighborhood, you get out of my neighborhood. Like you get out. This is the yeah, yeah.
I don't like this, but I fear that East Ukraine at the very least will be it's looking like it's gonna be a sacrificial lamb, which I don't like that. I'm not happy about that. I'm not
Yeah.
saying that's good, but that's what it's looking like to me. I do think it's probably gonna end up being
So,
that way, some restructuring going on there.
so from Trump's perspective, okay, when did Europe come and provide, like in the past couple of years, Europe hasn't been contributing to America, like from Trump's perspective, to America's security, and United States is basically coming in and using its resources to protect Europe, right? So and also not only that, Europe is now getting closer and closer to China. Like the main adversary of United States is not Russia, it's China, and Europe is getting closer to China. Okay, then why would I, if my security, which is mostly China, challenged by China, is not a priority for Europe, then from an American perspective, why should I then make Europe's security challenges, which is Russia, my priority? If they don't care, if they're getting closer to China, then I'm like, from American perspective, you might think like I'm not even getting as close to Putin as they're getting close to the CCP, right? Like people are
Well,
criticizing
I
me for
mean,
not for yeah, okay,
the guy, the president, or maybe he wasn't the president, I'm forgetting his name. The Canadian guy basically said that we should lean into China. He blatantly said that, and
right. So
and so I
so so from an American perspective, it's like, okay, then you could go fuck off. I'm gonna go focus on my security. Good luck with Russia, right? That's from
yeah.
American
I
perspective.
mean, but
Yeah, okay.
they've always seen us as their peasant stock that should just provide security for them. They've always seen
Yep,
us
yeah,
that way. So
this is how yeah, they make fun of Americans. They have like a superiority complex. They're like, "Oh my god, look at these uncivilized barbaric Americans with
Army,
their
you're
guns."
spewing
With
nonsense.
no, I'm
I
not.
need to
You don't know what you're
interrupt
talking
you.
about. You interrupt.
Yeah,
You
yeah,
don't
yeah.
you be quiet, be quiet. Let me finish. Yes. What was I saying? Like this is like, it's really not good when you guys interrupt me, guys. Like stop it. What was I saying? So yeah, the Europeans have this. I yeah. By the way, when you say like the worst way to try to convince somebody of your opinion is to say like you're spewing nonsense. Like, this is a very immature, fucked up way of trying to correct somebody. This is basically guaranteeing that your points are not going to be taken into account, because what you're signaling to the other side is that you're butthurt and you're emotional and you're not actually thinking logically. So maybe if you have some good points, try to be a little bit more respectful instead of actually attacking the person by being this butthurt when you're listening to someone's opinion. Okay. And it's interesting that, because even if I'm wrong about this, what I'm saying is the same position of some many people, many analysts that have dedicated their entire lives to study this, and they're experts at this field, and I'm reflecting what they're saying. I'm not saying that makes me correct, but to just dismiss it as nonsense is nonsense. Yeah. So really quickly, from many European perspective, is that they see themselves as more civilized, more cultured, superior to Americans, but yet at the same time they're benefiting from the leeching off America's military. They're benefiting from the security that America provides, without contributing as much to the global security that America is providing around Europe. So, and given that they're getting closer to China, it does make sense for the Americans to focus more on what's there in their best interest, not to completely abandon the Europeans. I mean, Europeans could focus, like, encourage the Europeans to spend more on their military, and if they want advanced American military weaponry, they could come buy it, right? But I think this is actually what Trump is doing to Europe, is actually in the benefit of Europe as well, because actually you could see that their spending on their military has been increasing ever since that Trump and JD Vance and Pete Hegseth have signaled to Europeans that they need to actually contribute a lot more to their military. So this is good for Europe to actually, basically, Europe needs to, again, this is going to be very difficult, because a lot of the increased military spending that Europe needs to do requires them to spend less on their welfare, but they have made their citizens addicted to welfare. It's really hard. Like, their citizens are not going to tolerate. This is the problem with being a welfare state. Once you realize that this model doesn't work, you can't get off of it, because your citizens have become addicted to it. So now, even if you want to spend a lot more on your military, then you really can't as much as you should be, because your citizens will not tolerate it. I mean, I do agree. Like, by the way, this doesn't, I don't want to generalize all European countries, because, like, Poland, for example, very proud of Poland, doing a really good job, and I'm pretty sure there are some exceptions. Germany is become waking up. France is horrible, but yes, but again, so what was your second question, Shana?
Oh, I just really, really quick, because I know we gotta get on it. Fuentes is Democrat posting, and so,
Oh yeah.
the political alliance between the white nationalists is the Islamic commies. Like, open no, like,
Yeah,
more
so
open.
yeah, I can see I can see that happen. Here's an interesting thing. When I used to listen to Nick Fuentes more, he wanted this union to happen so much more earlier, but he said that his expectation was more people on the left to stop with the immigration. Okay, but that so here's the thing. This is why Jew hatred is such a unifying factor. Okay, I agree with you that we're moving in that direction. I think we're going to see the Jew hatred is going to be a major deciding factor between who's on what side, right? So instead of, I feel like the world is moving towards a direction where we don't have left versus right. We have Jew haters versus non-Jew haters. That's the division that we're moving in that direction to.
I
Okay. uh,
actually agree. I think it started with
yeah.
October 7th.
Yes, yes, and I think we're going to have, like, Nick Fuentes, right-leaning people and then leftists and Marxists on one side, and then Islamists, all of them on that side, and everybody else on this other side, right? And I think we're going to see them slowly becoming their own political thing. But the main thing that is it's not going to be perfect. Just like, I don't know, Sunnis and Shias unite over the Jew hatred, right? Sometimes they get reminded that, oh, we actually hate each other as well, and start killing each other as well. Like, it's not going to be a perfect union, but they manage to sometimes work with each other over the Palestinian cause and Jew hatred. But sometimes it's not like they're going to completely put their differences aside. But yes, I think that some sort of a union like that is I mean, this has happened off again and again and again. It's not like this is happening for the first time, right? We
Well, they
expect
also
this is how
they
Iran fell as a country. Go on.
It's not I also wanted to mention just really, really quickly, it's not just they're unified under Jew hatred, that is one that's obviously the dominant, but they also both believe in a pan-national identity. In the case of Fuentes, sometimes it's Catholic, sometimes it's pan-European. He will coordinate with people like Richard Spencer, who believes in a pan-European identity. He believes all white people are the same, essentially. But yeah, so Richard Spencer and Fuentes kind of unify under this like sort of pan identities, and that's the other unifying factor. Whereas I think on the right, we believe in ethnic and national identities that they exist, like maybe and religious identities. They exist.
I'm
They might be different, but
I'm actually noticing that Nick Fuentes is seeming. This is what I was trying to get to. He seems to be wanting to put white nationalism aside and just focus on Jew hatred. Okay, to me that's what it seems like.
he's still playing ball with people like Richard
I
Spencer,
know,
who's an open white nationalist. I mean, he's still having him on his show.
but he's not going. It seems like he doesn't want to focus on that. Like, he's wanting to downplay that. I saw him mentioning that the white nationalist cause has been taken by a whole bunch of retards, as he put it. So he thinks it's a lost cause. But the thing is that he doesn't understand that that's their main winning card. Like, the leftists, the far leftists, they get to change their votes in their direction by demographically engineering the population, by having migrants in to come vote in their favor. Like, that is their main asset. Why would they give up on their main weapon? So that's how they win. And white nationalists, they don't have a chance against that, because when it comes to demographics, white nationalists are like, oh, white women have more babies, white women please have more babies, white women you have to have more babies. Yeah,
with
that's not gonna work.
with white
Yes,
men
but
specifically.
yeah, with white men, yeah, have more baby, get married early, and have more kids. Yep, okay, keep saying that. Let's see how much that's going to change the
Well, no,
demographics.
no,
That's
white
not,
women
but
are still having babies, but they're just not necessarily having them only exclusively with white men.
I know, like, yeah, but yeah, of course, yeah, but I'm just saying that them trying to create more white babies by advertising for it, that has never worked anywhere. Okay, uh, telling people to have more babies is not going to make them have more babies. It's just not going to work. Okay, but the left has a secret weapon. Like, we don't even need to tell our people to have more babies. We'll just open the door to people who we promise free shit from, from the hard work that other people are doing, and tell, once they get in, we're like, oh, we let you in, vote for us, because this is what we did for you. We're going to give you more free shit if you vote for us. So this is like a winning strategy. You don't need to have more babies. You just allow people in, right? So they're not going to give up on that. And Nick Fuentes, I think, realized that there is no winning this. Okay, like, Trump has failed him, in his opinion, when it comes to stopping migration. And maybe this is a losing cause. And he might think, okay, the white replacement, as he calls it, is going to happen, and there's no stopping it. So let's just focus on fighting Jews and Israel. That seems to be popular right now. Like, fighting migration is not going to win us anything. Like, they're winning. It's over. So let's just get united with the Muslims and the leftists and everybody else who is focusing on the greater threat of all, more than migration, which is Israel itself, Zionism, the global Zionism. Let's just focus. That seems to be a winning cause. Let's just focus on that. And I'm kidding you not. Like, it's not just leftists. He's completely willing to now work and unite with Islamists. He says this is one of the reasons why he's defending the Islamic Republic. He's aggressively right now defending the Islamic Republic and all other Islamic countries, because his priority, like ethnicity, race is now like not a big priority for him. Like, he's talking about Arabs as an ally. As a he like his latest show, he was talking about Arabs as a major ally to them against Israel. and he wants to support the Islamic Republic and Arab countries and Islamic countries. So yeah, ethnicity and race, not that big of a deal for him anymore. He wants to, him and many other people. I mean, you could look at Islamic countries, for example. They keep praising Nick Fuentes, they keep praising Tucker Carlson. So the feeling is mutual. Like the Jew haters are falling in love with each other, and the bond is real. And I think we're moving in that direction.
My other question though is, do you think that they could potentially take over the Democratic Party like Trump changed the Republican Party? It's not the 90s Republican Party.
I have to
Yeah, I
insist that we
mean,
move on, so just really
yeah,
Okay,
quick.
let's
sorry.
move on. Yeah, I don't know, but it is possible because it has happened before, right? So yeah, it might be under the umbrella of the Democratic Party. It's more likely for that to happen than it happening under the umbrella of the Republican Party. So yeah, sure, why not?
Okay.
But yeah,
Next on the list, I have Michael.
I'm here. Did anyone hear me?
yes.
Cool. Okay. Appreciate it. Good morning, Armin, or good afternoon, wherever you're at. I kind of want to rewind a little bit back to when you talked about how Europe is falling into the sphere of China's influence. And I also want to add in, for example, like, so I'm going to like divulge a little bit in this. So I'll make it short. So, like, I'm a gun owner here in the US. And actually, here in the States, for what I know, many European gun manufacturers have signed contracts with many American law enforcement is here in the States. Also, for example, HK, they're developing the HK 416, which is similar to an AR-15. I also want to emphasize what I mean is so Europe, the European Union, has had renegotiated, or at least from what I know, has been renegotiating its trade deal with China. And let's just say it's not in good standing because many European countries have had a trade deficit with China where they imported more Chinese products than China buying more European products. And so I feel like that the Europeans are worried about that. I wouldn't be fooled by the headlines. And I would also add that the American and European relationship should be mutual in a sense that they shouldn't over rely on each other. And I feel like the European Union has paid attention and looking at the Mario Draghi report. I don't know if you ever read it. It's a PDF. I highly recommend it. I'll actually put the link to it here in the chat. And so that report is very interesting. And so the European Union and many other countries within the bloc are creating their payment systems and trying to not use MasterCard or Visa too much. That's all I
So
wanted to add.
what's the main point you're
Uh-huh.
trying to make here?
The
What's the
main
main
point that I'm
point
trying
you're
to make is that there's a resurgence in the European Union bloc trying to not over rely on the US or China.
right?
Yeah, yeah.
Oh,
That's all I
yeah,
wanted to add.
they're pivot. Yeah, so
Mhm.
they're pivoting a bit towards China as a way to not rely too much on United States, right?
Well, they don't want to over rely too much on China. Like what I'm saying is the Europe is being wary of China.
Yeah, of course. I mean, I mean, okay. So when I say they're moving towards China, that
Mhm.
doesn't mean that they're going to completely rely on them. Okay.
Yeah.
I mean, from a European perspective, what they're doing does make sense. They want to diversify, right? But America will do what they have to do when they notice that Europe is diversifying their reliance, not to move away. When I say move towards China, it's not like they're jumping into their arm and basically
Mm.
cutting their ties to United States. They're still going to be more of an American ally than a Chinese ally, of course, but it's more of a spectrum. It's not like binary, right? But also in the same way, like United States relationship with Ukraine and Russia, it's also not binary. It's not like they're going to be like, goodbye Ukraine, we're not going to protect you anymore, and we're now a Russian ally. Like it's not like that. It's more of a spectrum, right? Yeah, so Europe is moving closer to China, less reliance on the United States. United States wants to focus more on its hemisphere, and its priority is China, not Russia. Okay, and these
One
are
last
all
thing I want to
spectrum.
add
It's not. Yeah, go
is
on.
even this is a slap in the face for Russia because the US and Azerbaijan have made like peace talks with Armenia and stuff like that. And so clearly we're seeing a dying Russian empire because Bulgaria has adopted the euro. I don't know if you heard about that recently, and Russia tried to intervene in that election because there was a vote on it. and Bulgaria adopted the euro. So that's good news.
No, I haven't seen that. So I haven't seen that.
Yeah.
Maybe
That's what I wanted to add.
Yeah. Okay.
I appreciate it,
Okay.
Armin. Thank you.
Next, I have
All right. Who's
Pahlavi.
next?
Me. Hi. I think the debate over fentanyl earlier by Samantha and also others in the chat. I hope I maybe I misunderstood, but from my understanding, it was actually like doing a little bit of a mix up of two different worlds. Okay, Samantha, about the responsibility of the user or whoever sold it to him. And I think it's a mix up because it isn't a social or moral issue. It's a geopolitical one. So when a country like knowingly allows or facilitates the export of a lethal illegal substance into another country, you cannot see it as a market transaction. It's an attack on the other country's sovereignty and like well-being. So it's different. It's two different realms. It's actually an act of aggression. It's not the same. Responsibility is like it doesn't have. It has nothing to do here. Okay, so that's what I think. Another thing is that Fuentes actually said a couple of days ago. He said, "I am a progressive." And also he said, he talked to his fans. He said, like, guys, you cannot be like double standard and talk about Gazans and why are they dead? Why are you killing them when you are making joke about the Holocaust? I know it's the numbers are too much and it's not true, but people died, people were starved, and you make jokes about this. So you have to be consistent. Basically, be evil all the way. So, and also he said that it used to be more fun to be a Nazi. He didn't say Nazi, but he said it was like rebellious, it was fun, we made jokes. Now everybody's like
Yeah.
that. I lost interest. It's no longer fun. I think also that he's planning like maybe to use the left and not long term. Maybe he plans like in his head to turn on them or whatever. But in allyship with Islam, I do see it long term. Just imagine he can keep them weak, they can be good fighters, they can kill whoever they want inside their families. Like, why should he care? And they're not like overtaking economies, right? So that's more dangerous. That's it.
All right.
Okay, Jeffrey raised his hand earlier, but I think he didn't want to speak and also he's gone. So next I have Marku. Next I have Francesco.
Yeah.
Francisco.
Sorry for the communication before. I think
No worries.
yeah, so it's not personal ever. So when I talk about, it's not ever about yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, but the thing of leaving Europe to China, and that's like that's the history that happened to Iran. Iran was not on the sphere of influence of the United States. You don't want a front to get closer to you. You don't want Europe
Wait, can
to
you
fall
explain?
to
Sorry, I didn't
China
understand the
and
first.
then
I didn't understand the first part. Can you explain again? Sorry.
yeah, you don't want
me-
Europe to fall under
Oh,
communism and then Islam. That's not in the
right.
interest of the United States. That will be terrible for the world, like the Islamic Republic is now. Is not the Islamic Republic in the sphere of influence of, and that's why I think I wanted to intervene, because it's dangerous, I think, to let Europe fall. I know that the United States has probably some other concern to protect first something, but Europe is right now, the United States benefits from Europe, and Europe benefits from the United States. And if Europe doesn't benefit, if it has to fall under enemy's hand, then the United States would spend way more money to fix that later. The cost of peace, for example, with, let's say, Hitler, would have been a lot of people that suffered more under Nazi Germany. The fact that he would have probably continued and spread wars all around the globe. So yeah, I don't see how it is not beneficial for the United States, the protection of Europe, which is, yeah, the under the American sphere of influence. When we talk about getting close to China, it's just civil, it's not military. Plus, I mean, the technology, the strong competition to the United States is from Europe currently. It's not from China. Yeah, the chip manufacturer use TSMC. ASML is in the Netherlands. So also in terms of technology, I mean, Europe is just second to the USA.
Okay.
So
Can I
yeah,
respond?
yes.
Can I respond? Okay. All right. So I wasn't. First of all, everything I said, I wasn't being. It wasn't normative. It was descriptive. Like I think maybe I didn't explain it very well. I wasn't suggesting whether this is a good thing or a bad thing. This what I was talking about is was an observation of what's happening. I wasn't endorsing it, and I wasn't like the fact that Europe is getting closer to China is something that is happening again, and it's not happening on a spectrum. Obviously, even if it's happening, Europe is still going to be a closer ally to United States than China. All right, so I'm not suggesting that they're going to basically give up on United States and just jump into the arms of the CCP. I'm talking, for example, if it was like, let's say, for example, just making up numbers. If it was like 95 US, 5% like closeness to China, just making up. We're going to go to like, I don't know, 80-20, something like still, I mean, still America is still going to be the main ally, like, but just shifting more towards China. That's what's happening. Again, I wouldn't, obviously, I don't want Europe to fall. I think Europe is like, still, I mean, even with the welfare state, they still represent Western civilization, and like most of the values that Europe has is still superior to the rest of the world. even if we Even if we criticize a lot of the bad decisions that they're making, still compared, I don't know, compared to Putin, compared to the CCP, compared to the Islamic countries, we still consider them to be much more superior to them. But if we want Europe to spend more on its military, is because we think that Europe is worth defending, right? Russia is a threat to Eastern Europe. It's not going to be the fall of Europe. Okay, so the problem that you're having an issue with, which is basically destroying Europe from within, which is leftism and Islamism, that is something that United States can't do anything about, right? So we are talking about two different threats. We're talking about a military threat from the eastern borders, from the eastern borders of European countries, like coming from Russia, which is going to, maybe if this happens at some point, we're going to see Ukraine and some other European countries become part of Russia. That's one threat. That's the part that I'm talking about, that maybe United States and understanding is that one way or another this is going to be happening. Not everybody in the US, but some people in the US think that's going to happen one way or another. I'm not saying that. I'm just saying I observed some analysts are saying that, right? And but the threat that you're worried about, okay, which is the spread of Islamism and leftist ideology inside Europe, that is something, when it comes to United States supporting its allies from a military perspective, that is something that could only be done because they want you to do it. Like European countries want America to do this. But when it comes to protecting Europe, when it comes to the degrading of their culture and their values, like nobody is asking, like the United States can't help Europe with that, because none of them is asking United States to come and fight Islamism. Like this is like they consider this to be their own internal issue. It's no one's business. They're doing this to themselves. Like when it comes to the Russia threat, they might want United States to help them because they consider this an external threat. But when it comes to Islamism and Marxist leftist values spreading in their own country, they this is a self-inflicted wound. So how could United States help them when they don't even want to help? Like they're doing this to themselves. This is going to be, so United States is not abandoning Europe. Europe is abandoning Europe. So how could United States defend Europe against a self-inflicted wound? Can you let
Yeah,
me
I can
know?
answer that.
Go on.
That's what happens all the time. Countries try to influence each other, and generally democracies don't mingle in each other's affairs, but dictatorship do. And what happens, all those welfare policies, open borders, this is like a communist playbook one-on-one. And they are doing the same things in the United States. So the Russian threat is not direct, is by the fact that they finance Black Lives Matter, anti-fracking. So they try to destabilize it from within.
Sleeper
And
cells.
yes, they do the same in Europe. So you do it exactly as they do it, influence each other with both institution, taking out operatives like they did for the anti-terrorism campaign. I mean, they were very good at intermingling into each other relation and policy during the Cold War, eliminating communists threats here and there. I mean, I'm from Italy. The Americans intervened, supported the mafia to reduce the Red Brigade's influence. They did it in the past, and they should do it again. They should just remove the threats from Muslim Brotherhood and communism in democratic countries because they're falling.
Right, but what did I say that you disagree on? Because we seem to agree
That they should intervene, even covertly or through influence, to counter
okay,
the
so
communist measures.
and one of the best ways to do that is to free Iran, right? To help free Iran, right? Because a lot of the Islam support funding of the Islamism that is basically fucking the entire planet is coming from inside Iran. So turning Iran into an ally of this fight is for one of the ways that you win this battle. When it comes to communism, I mean, it was easier when we do covert operations against Soviets. When we had the Soviet Unions, your enemy was pretty clear who it is, and you could have like some operations against them. But how do you fight against? So here's what I think. I think this is our job, right? It's really difficult to expect this your state to get involved in ideological battles. Like, how is that? How are they going to do it? Like, do you want the
Yeah,
American
there are
states
ways
to come? Hmm.
because
Yeah, I
there
mean,
are silver
I
cells
would be
and
open to that. I
police.
mean, I don't disagree with that. I'm just need to see like how to do that. Like, nothing that I said, by the way, suggests that that shouldn't be happening. I do endorse ways to fight not just communist states and Nazi states and Islamic states, but also communist ideas and Nazi ideas and Islamic ideas. Like, if there's a way to for states to get involved with that in a way that is effective. I mean, to your point, Francisco, that's how the Cold War was won. So that's a win for the Cold War was not just a military battle, it was also an ideological battle, right? But the reason why the ideological battle between capitalism and communism was won during the Cold War is because people could visibly see the difference. Like, you could see the different sides of the Berlin Wall, and you could be like, yeah, okay, we want that and not that. The the way to make things more complicated for people to be able to decide who's I mean, for example, the Palestinian cause, for example, has been a blessing, the so-called terroristic Palestinian cause for all of these people, right? It's hard to convince people that communism works when you can see my fridge is empty and theirs is not, right? That's how you really easily win that ideological battle. But this is why, I mean, none of these people have any good points. The woke left, the Islamists, the woke right, the Nazis, they have no good points. But when they come and say like, oh, let's stop this genocide and stop the Jews for committing genocide, then they could be, by focusing on that, they could basically sell themselves as being on the right side. This is why one of the most important things to end is the Palestinian cause. And again, this going back to Iran, and I know as an Iranian, it seems like I'm really motivated to bring everything back to Iran. But again, this is why going back to Iran, because if we free Iran, we're probably also going to be helping to end the Palestinian cause, which is the main way these people sell themselves. All of these people, both the Nick Fuentes types, the Mamdani types, and the Khamenei types, all of them try to convince the world that we're on the right side because the world is committing a genocide in Gaza. So if we take that away from them, we are basically we have hit them, we have hit their PR campaign in a way that they can't recover from. But go on, Francisco. What did you want to say?
Yeah, I agree with you. I agree with everything you said. There is no disagreement there.
Yeah.
The thing is that it's organic. Those have bad points and still are popular because they get funded. So dictatorship push them. So when I think the United States should be more proactive towards Europe because it's even easier to free than it is the Islamic Republic. The effort, the cost to basically rescue, for example, Britain, it's way lower than the cost to free Iran. And the consequences would be devastating if those countries fall. So that's why I generally push when, yeah, against all United States should stay America first, because
Oh no. Okay,
it is,
America first requires involvement around the world. I've been pushing back against that as well. But yeah, go on.
yeah. So that's why I feel that I had to stop and intervene, because that's dangerous if the United States retrieves from all over the world. And I
Oh no,
think the
no.
right is going towards that direction. So that's how it starts. America first becomes American only, and I say, okay, there is no
I
need
mean,
for
you
me to fight in Iran because I don't see the direct, immediate South American interest in this fight or whatever.
see,
I think that's the
listen.
problem now. That's,
Yeah, listen. I would. I think Putin is a major problem for global stability, and me personally, if America could help, I mean, I want America to fight Russia, but I also want America to encourage Europe to become stronger as well. So I welcome any force against Putin. I welcome that. Like I think it's a is best. But I'm also completely in agreement with you that America first it requires American presence all around the world. America is the greatest country on earth because of its presence all around the world. So its presence is that policy is an America first policy, in my opinion, right? However, when it comes to Europe, again, I don't want to go extreme. Like I'm not saying abandon Europe. Obviously, I want Europe to succeed. All I'm suggesting is sometimes, you know how if you're teaching a kid how to ride a bike, you have to remove the what are those things called in English? Helping wheels?
Training wheels.
Those what are they called?
Training.
Training wheels. You have to remove those training wheels. Okay? And removing the training wheels might be like, "Oh, are you stopping are you abandoning this child? Are you removing the aid? You're removing the help?" Actually, no. Like the training wheels being removed is actually in the benefit. Like you're trying to empower them. This is not abandoning them. This is empowering them. You want Europe to spend more on its military, and again, it worked. Like what Trump did. Again, I don't completely 100% agree with everything Trump does, but when Trump signaled to Europe that yeah, you guys need to contribute more, they contributed more. Like they started spending more of their GDP. I still think this is going to be a challenge for Europe because the level of spending that I mean, they still have much more advanced military than Russia. I realize that Russia's economy is only as big as Spain. Like, forget the rest of the Europe. So, but it's embarrassing given how big Europe's economy is to Russia that Europe is not ready. Europe is not ready to defend itself against Russia without America's help. Europe's economy suggests that they should be so much more ready than they are right now. But they're not because they're spending on so much welfare and it's really hard to come off of it. And this also requires convincing Europeans to give up on, like welfare, which sounds like an impossible thing to do. And like, I want to hear someone's solution. I know for a fact that when a country gets to a welfare mode, then they don't ever want to get off of it because their entire lifestyle depends on it. So what are we going to do? Like, do these countries need to go bankrupt at some point so to convince people that this is not the way? Like, that's not what I want. So how could you convince people that are so addicted to welfare that this is not the way? Like, I would really like to know what the solution to that is, because I don't have an answer. And Samantha saying I'm Israeli first. I think everybody here should be like, Iranians should be Iran first, Americans should be America first, Israelis should be Israel first. That's the way we should be. The reason why we cooperate with each other is because we have mutual interests. So when you are Israel first, then you
Hence why I
benefit
side
from
with
your
America over Russia, even with a
yes.
communist viewpoint, because only in Israel.
So being America first doesn't mean that you're against the other countries, because your allies succeeding, if you really love your country, then you should want your allies to succeed, because your allies succeeding is a win for you as a country as well. Okay.
Oscar is next.
Yeah, I wanted to say about the America First thing because I agree with Francisco. This America First then turns into America Only. And then I think you, Francisco, are probably familiar with this coming. I don't know if you're familiar with your own history, but, Mussolini is awfully reminiscent of the kind of language that you already hear the Trump administration using. This whole, myth of make America great again, the images that I see sometimes coming out of, for example, some of the people around Trump, like Pete Hegseth, published a book, and I love this example, published a book called American Crusade. And I don't know if you have read the last,
Yeah, but
I
the
put a,
difference, yeah, they didn't take power marching.
well,
Eh,
the difference is that you have a U.S. Constitution that constantly blocks what he is allowed to do, right? I read a document recently, I posted on School and the Post, where basically Trump is considering what he calls anti-Christianity to be something that goes against the United States state, right? And if you're an atheist like me and you don't like Christianity, right? Or you may poke at Christians by using satanic symbols just to make fun of them, then you're in a big pickle, right? And I hear this talk about, culture and values and these kinds of and we're this framing of, we're harming somebody's culture or somebody's values is very reminiscent of the nationalistic movements of the 20s, 30s, and 40s. And how do you harm somebody's value? What? By putting on a satanic symbol? By putting on what? An LGBTQ flag? By putting on what? Something that violates maybe traditional Christian norms? So, what was the point that I wanted to make with this? Oh, yeah. So, I see definitely, and I would call it openly, what's happening in the US. At least the Constitution blocks this. You can read it in my post, a document from the White House, where Trump says basically, if the law didn't block us from doing this, we would kick all these terrorists out, which are the anti-Christians and all the leftists and all these people. And yeah, so the U.S. the administration is to me clearly fascistic. However, the Constitution and the system of America blocks these kinds of people from doing what they want.
Based on that argument, then every government is fascistic, because every politician would do whatever they could do to win. It's the structure, like, based on that argument, every politician is fascistic. I mean,
No.
everybody should, like, whatever goal that you have, your responsibility is to try to do everything you can to get it. But then we need to provide a framework so that you are limited by that framework, right? So the
Yes, and Trump
framework,
doesn't like
it's
that
not the
framework.
people. Yeah, but everybody doesn't like their framework because it's a limiting factor to what you can do, right?
I
So
know. I
the
mean,
framework.
Anakin thought about this in Against the Sith, right? He didn't like that the Jedi had all these rules and all of that, and that's why he revolted. He wanted to take power into his hands.
I
and
mean,
go against the.
again, like, but we consider a government fascistic or not based on the motivations of the people who operate within them. We consider a government fascistic or not based on how the entire system works as a whole, right? I mean, if you want to be a successful politician, you should be power hungry. You should be testing the limits. You should be pushing for getting more than what is allowed to, and the system needs to be designed in a way where it basically stands those tests, right? Yeah, people don't get successful unless they're so ambitious that they test the limits. This is not just in politics; it's also the same thing in business, right? The limits need to be tested. The limits are there, and you basically go right to the edge of, like, right next to you try to go a little bit past it, see who pushes back. And if the system, either the system pushes back and then you go back, or the system realizes that this red line over here was not very effective because when you move past it a little bit, it actually ended up working. So we changed the red line. When people test these red lines, it's actually not a negative, because sometimes you realize that, okay, this guy challenged the red line and it people liked it and it ended up working. So this is actually how the system evolves, when people actually test the framework and challenge it.